This dynamic plastics manufacturing company has a big message to share with the world. Even in a tough environment, it's powering a red-hot pace of innovation, breaking production records, and winning awards. So how are they doing it? Michele, they have figured out that innovation can't be any single group's job. It's everybody's job.
Yeah, that's right. And innovation being everyone's job might sound like a recipe for chaos. But Cascade Engineering runs on a few key elements that make this work.
And it's not just innovative, Michele. As we know, it's a really great place to work, winning awards and a spot on Newsweek 2025 Best Places to Work.
Yeah, super inspiring. But let's listen in to how CEO Christina Keller makes this happen.
Christina, you've been using a distributed leadership model since the very beginning of your company to fuel organic innovation. So can you tell us a bit about the defining elements and practices of your model for our viewers?
Our organization was really founded on the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. And so we look at how can we bring that forward in all of our decision making. So how are people front and center in our decision making? How is the planet front and center in our decision making? And how is profitability in the front and center as we make our decisions?
Can you tell us what makes your approach distinctive when you're working to empower people to innovate?
We have a process each year where we do a PEST analysis, which is political, economical, societal, technological trends that are happening in the greater world. We bring that to our teams. And it's not a team of all of the leaders. It's actually a team of people that are self-motivated and interested in the next iteration of Cascade's future. So we have an innovation team that comes together. We look at the trends and we identify belief statements and we identify research themes for the year. So this happens kind of in addition to everybody's job. So nobody's core responsibility is innovation, but it's kind of up to everybody. A good example of something that came out of our innovation work was flood barriers. So we just launched a new product a couple of months ago that is helping address flooding. It's a barrier product that's an L-shaped plastic product, and it actually prevents flooding. It replaces about 144 sandbags per plastic piece. As we were looking at climate resilience, as we were looking at infrastructure in one of our trend analysis, it was something that came up and that we pursued, and now we have a new product.
So, Christina, I love what you said earlier that innovation isn't a particular group's job. It's everyone's job and people can participate in the effort. And I've also heard you say in the past that innovation can come from anywhere at Cascade. So can you maybe give us a sense, whether it's the flood barrier example you mentioned or some other example of new initiatives and ideas that have come from unexpected places?
We have innovation coming from everywhere in the organization. One example I could speak to is our pink cart. So we have a leader within our organization, Joanne Perkins, who was impacted by cancer. Her mother and her grandmother both died from breast cancer. And so we worked with the American Cancer Society to roll out a pink cart. It reminds you on the lid to do your mammograms and to make sure that you're being proactive. And we've raised nearly $1 million for the American Cancer Society with that cart. And it was truly just an idea that she had, and she started talking to somebody else, and they said, that's a really great idea, and let's continue to pursue that. And I think there's a lot of examples of that. Our Eco Cart was a similar one, which actually won the Institute for Scrap Recyclers' highest designation for creativity and innovation. Large organizations often say no to a lot of ideas, and I think all you really have to do is just say yes, but also have some parameters.
Actually, I'd like to dig a little deeper on how you go from idea to something that actually makes it to, the real world, right? Because often, as you say, the constraint isn't people's imaginations. It's more a system that is not really suited towards nurturing and exploring new ideas. So how does that work? Is it about, particular methodology you use to validate whether the idea or not? Is it about time that you give people with an idea to pursue that?
Yeah, I think that it really starts with the culture. I think it's an openness to working across systems, across silos, across different areas, being able to start small. A lot of our ideas start as, hey, they just launched the Pink Cart website. We didn't know how many followers it was going to be. It could have died after 5 followers, but it got to thousands, and it really grew. And so you kind of put out some different seeds and some different ideas, and you see what takes, and the team really works on that together. I think an example of how we've done it with AI is looking at the Ford frunk. So when we launched the Ford F-150 front trunk, we were looking at how we can do quality better. And we had a team member that said, what if we were to use collaborative robots? And they were saying the number of data points that we had to look at, it was going to, for the speed in which we need to go through, we weren't going to be able to capture that many data points that quickly. And so they looked at, let's train two cobots, and then now they can do a 365-degree sweep within a time frame to make sure that there's zero quality defects. And we've now been running this for almost 3 years, and there's been zero quality defects. The mindset is really, how are you as a team looking at the problem? It's harnessing the collective focus on how we can improve. And I think what's exciting about the triple bottom line is that it's not just how can we improve the cost, it's how can we improve the environmental impact? How can we improve the societal impact? It expands and creates a little more space for that innovation to thrive.
So, Christina, you're now deploying these technologies like AI, machine learning, data analytics in ways that you intend to enhance the human experience and fast forward innovation rather than replacing human beings. So, can you tell us how this works and give us an example?
I've started to use the term physical AI, and it's really intelligent machinery alongside human problem solving. As a manufacturer, we've often been talking about Industry 4.0 and how we can have smart manufacturing and smart equipment. And I really just think of AI as that next iteration of smart. We're able to use a lot more data points that AI can digest a lot faster than I can digest. They can bring all that information forward and be able to have us make collectively better decisions for how we're going to move forward. So there's still people there on the production floor. We haven't replaced all the humans on the line, but we've had an ability to increase our quality from that perspective and to utilize other systems. From a predictive maintenance perspective, our Fanuc robots, we have dashboards that can put our data against thousands of other robots' data and help us understand when something's going to be needing maintenance, whether it's going to be needing something. And we also have other types of chats and other things that our maintenance team can use to try to troubleshoot, to try to understand based on other data what is likely the outcome or the issue. We still need our maintenance team. We still need our people on the production floor. They just have better tools and equipment to be able to solve for problems.
It's really exciting and inspiring, this vision that you're describing, that you're bringing into being right now. And I'm just wondering what you would say to people who are worried that AI might replace their jobs or that this is going to replace us as human beings. How would you respond to that question or fear?
People do relationships. We're able to connect with other people, and that's not going to be replaced. I think that we can look at how do we innovate. That's one of the things that we do well, and we can use these tools to do this better. And I think some other examples are, we have this dashboard now with our MODS dashboard where we can empower our frontline leaders to have real-time data and to address the issues quickly. And I think it's actually quite exciting because it's another tool in our toolkit to be able to advance our organization.
And does that touch on this idea of reducing human struggle that you referred to earlier?
Absolutely. One of the things that we've done as an example is our IQ weight control. So one of the issues with using recycled content is that sometimes the melt flow is different based on the material that you've gotten in. We now have smart IQ weight control where it can make real-time adjustments to optimize alternative and recycled materials. And so people don't have to be sitting there moving the knobs, doing the different things. They can do other work that can focus on how we can improve as an organization. If you think about a diagram and you say, okay, everybody should be working on the business as much as they're working in the business. What happens when you free up people's time and you free up their discretionary effort on the production floor, they have more time to look around and say, what else could we be doing different? How could we be improving our processes? And we believe that the people that are closest to the processes are the people who had those answers for how to do it better. I believe that it actually frees up people's time to be able to go to a higher use, and we will unlock new levels because we have more of this discretionary time and effort of what can be accomplished by those individual leaders.
I was wondering, Christina, if you could talk a little bit about the process of upskilling people and training them so they also have the skills to do this well, right? Because the interesting thing about your company is that you focus a lot of your hiring on people who are returning to work from prison, from the welfare system. So people who may not have a ton of experience, like working in a complex, data-rich environment. So I'd love for you to talk about, like, how do you equip people, right, that you hire to succeed and to innovate as effectively as you describe them doing every day?
Going back to the belief that everybody brings value to this organization, people who have been through incredibly challenging circumstances have a higher level of resilience than some people who have not had any challenges in their growth. They've learned how to adapt to very different challenges, and I think we're hitting a turning point in our society. I took my role as CEO in 2019, and I had about 6 months of everything's great until the world collapsed with the pandemic. Now we have tariffs, and then we had other things, and I've really started to believe that the new normal is chaos. So the new skill set is resilience. And so how can you do resilience well? And I actually think some of the people that we have that are coming from different backgrounds do resilience really well. And they have good mechanisms to get creative as long as they know where we're moving. As we look at our training programs, we have some very clear boundaries around A-level operator, B-level operator, C-level operator, and there are some formal on-the-job training and then some informal classes or other types of outside support services. We have some mentoring. We have a whole apprenticeship program. And then the apprenticeship program dovetails into our internship program. So people can come directly out of engineering school into our apprenticeship program. On the leadership route, as you have the frontline leaders, as I mentioned, are really critically important. And then as they go from frontline leadership, they can go into other areas. You could go into quality, you can go into inventory control, you can go into some of the finance or HR, other types of areas. It's this combination of on-the-job training, mentoring, and then partnering with local institutions that can help accelerate that training. And really, everybody should be continuing their education throughout their career. I went back and got my Lean Six Sigma black belt and did a lot of different work to just set the tone of we're always learning, we're always developing, because the world is always changing.
One thing I'm curious about, Christina, is like, to what extent are the frontline leaders accountable to their team as opposed to the other way around? So how are they accountable for their growth, for their development, for their productivity?
The frontline leaders are absolutely responsible for motivating and inspiring their employees to continue on their path. If places aren't performing, if areas aren't performing, people start to get anxious, and there's people will often step away themselves before they have to be departed by the organization and say, I just maybe wasn't up for this.
I'm wondering, could we talk a bit about performance, because you have an incredibly human-centric way of working that's very distributed. Tell us about performance, how you measure it, what kinds of rewards or recognitions you're getting as a company for the work that you're doing, and how you stimulate that inside the company as well.
We have dialogue sessions every month with at least 10 employees and myself and the president of the organization. And we just say, what are some things that we are doing well? What are some things that we should stop doing? What are some things that we should start doing? And I remember a couple of those sessions, people come in and they say, I've never even met the leader of the organization. And you're asking my opinion. Like, that's really neat. That's different. We also align our metrics of where we want to try to go along the triple bottom line with our COQCI bonus program. So less of a punitive thing, more of a celebration thing. We can earn up to 15% per quarter if we meet our metrics. And so that becomes a driving force. And that is everybody all for one for all. Everybody gets up to 15%. So I think that the alignment of the bonus, as well as the sense of support and continuous improvement, is what allows people to really innovate and push and say, how can we do this differently? How can we move it forward?
So is the bonus a firm-wide bonus? So if the firm meets its targets, then everybody gets up to 50% of it's not based on the performance of individual units or plants.
Nope. It's all for one for all.
What is one thing that they could do this week to get themselves started working in the way that you've been describing?
The biggest thing that people could do is listen. Because a lot of times the team knows what's going on. The team knows what's wrong. They know what's right. I encourage people to have dialogue sessions deeper in their organization and listen to what people think they should start doing, stop doing, what they think they're doing well, because it really does help align the organization if you have that cohesive conversation, if you have that dialogue. So I think listen, starting small, and then really playing with problem-solving mindset. Asking yourself, what's the problem that I'm trying to solve? What's the problem that we're having internally? What's the problem that our customer's having? After you've done some of that listening, identifying those problems, and then trying to figure out how to solve them and what tools you could use. I think those are all really great ideas. And then the last one I would say is doing a pest analysis. So really looking at what is the trend going on in the world and how does that impact me as an organization, and getting a wider group of people conversing about that. Because if you have people on the production floor, you have people in the office, you're talking about these trends, you get different perspectives, you get different ideas that are percolating, and it's really becomes a fertile ground to look for ideas.
Any advice about how one would shift from having all the answers to doing what you're describing and listening and bringing others along in the journey?
I think it starts with each individual. When I think about collective thriving, it's about getting out of the scarcity mindset of, there's only one leader, there's only one top dog, and realizing that we are all interconnected. We are all influencing each other. And so if you can tap into an abundance mindset and say, it's not about me only, it's about all of us, you can really start to cultivate a strength in your ecosystem, in your ability to solve problems.
It's great to be listening, but some employees might be very fearful of telling you the truth, right? Because they're intimidated. And I realize you worked very hard to create an environment where you welcome dissenting opinions or different points of view. But what is it that you do personally to lower the stakes, to lower the pressure when you really want people to speak their mind?
I think it's two things. I think one is it's the consistency and the earnestness with which you do it. I mean, if you only ask it once, maybe you're not going to get an answer. If you ask it twice, maybe you still won't get an answer. If you ask it 3 times, people are going to start giving you the answers, and so I think it's the persistence of kind of continuing that. And then I think the second one, I often think about sourdough starter. And what I have the benefit of leading in our organization is and my father started this sourdough of this culture of what we are as an organization. And you can kill it, but if you feed it and if you do it right, it kind of has a life of its own. It's like you can have new people that come in, you have people that leave, you have things that happen, but this culture kind of, it's like a sourdough started. And as long as you're feeding it and caring for it, people are going to continue to tell you what they think, and they're going to continue to do that. And there's some momentum in that.
Well, I think this is a fantastic story, Christina. Anything that your soul would like to unburden itself and share as a final thought?
People feel like they've got to go one way or the other, that we're against each other. And I just really think the more stories that we can highlight of people who are working collaboratively, people who are reinforcing each other, and people who are wayfinding in this challenging time. How can we work together to support each other? I'm here as an example of somebody who's an explorer and happy to explore alongside with others that want to continue to move us forward as a civilization.
All right, Michele, so what did you take away from our conversation with Christina?
Oh, Kate, so many things, but let me start with 2. First is the open strategy process they use to spot new opportunities and innovation initiatives. Every year they spend time looking at what's happening in the world, political shifts, economic changes, social trends, new technologies. And the cool thing about it is that everyone can join. So you get insights from people across the company who see different things, spot new opportunities, and this creates a much better process of sense making and strategy, right? There are fewer blind spots and much more imagination that you're harnessing across the company. The second point is the bonus structure. Everyone gets the same percentage based on how the whole company performs across people, planet, and profit. So you're not competing with other departments. You need everyone to succeed, so you will stretch yourself to help others and be supportive.
That's so great. You said one of my favorite words, sense making. And you're right, everyone's got skin in the game. So for me, one of the big takeaways was about resilience. Christina pointed out that the new in-demand skill set in this chaotic world we live in is resilience. And the people that they hire from different backgrounds, returning from the prison system, returning to work from the welfare system, those folks do resilience really well. They've got creativity, they've got grit, and Cascade just gives them a chance and the right training and a culture of psychological safety and support to succeed, helping them with childcare, transportation, housing, and educational opportunities. That is how you help humans thrive and fuel a powerhouse innovation culture.
That's right. It's the opposite of what often happens, which is that leaders think of people as commodities that get slotted into commodity jobs. When you start to treat them as full human beings, you'll get far more contribution and commitment. So it's a really inspiring aspect of their story, for sure. The last thing, Kate, I wanted to share with you is just the point that Christina made about listening, which is really easy to talk about, easy to say that you're listening, but really hard to do.
I also loved what she said about that. Most leaders have gotten to where they are because they're good at filling the space with their smart ideas. Christina's talking about also holding space for everyone's ideas. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, well, I'm not the CEO, what can I do around distributed leadership? Well, start with listening. Listen to your team, ask for their ideas, and ask again next week, and then ask again. They will tell you.
And then identify one barrier you can remove to make them achieve more, to exercise initiative, apply their ingenuity. Start small, be practical, don't try to change everything at once.
And Michele, we know that's what works. Small steps, persistent efforts to change culture. Thanks everybody for watching Leaders at All Levels. Check out our playlist for more stories about distributed leadership in action.